Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm so excited to share with you the table of contents of my book that is coming out in 1 week's time. I'm so excited. It took me almost 2 years to write this. It started this cute little idea to throw tips and jargons on LinkedIn, and those blew up and got millions of views. So here's a book for you. All right, let's just go through the table of contents. So the first chapter is about assets, and I go through, all the popular asset classes. At the end of each chapter, there is a box. That box is not directly related to the chapter, but it has some really useful information that can help you on coffee chats or in interviews. This one's about liabilities. The second chapter goes through the various securities. Now, I know I'm not covering all of them because there are hundreds of securities, but these are the super popular ones. And you can see it's kind of subcategorized. So when I'm talking about equities, I give 3 examples of equities. Debt, I give 3 examples of debt. Hybrid and derivatives, I give 4 examples of derivatives. And then at the end of the chapter, I talk about identifiers because securities have various types of identifiers on public exchanges. Just thought it'd be really important to go through that, especially since analysts on trading desks often have the task of switching identifiers for securities for reporting purposes. It's a lot of work, but it's so important to understand how this works. Then the box is regulation of U.S. securities markets, a very popular topic. Stock trading, IPOs, bid-ask spreads, etc., etc. So I go through all of the information, how a company goes public and how it starts trading, primary, secondary markets, how trades are executed, the timing, everything. It's all in here. Various metrics used, different classes and types of stocks, and then aftermarket and pre-market trading. Super important and yummy information about non-standard trading hours. Bonds. Here's a bunch of information about bonds, then the different types of coupon distributions for bonds, and then talk about rating agencies and how bonds are rated. Finally, the valuations of financial securities after the bond section. Now, this is not a geeky or techie book. This book will be super informative and useful for somebody who's 60 and has worked for 40 years in finance, but it also is written for somebody in high school who's thinking about going to college to study finance. I tried to just think about everyone, and I assume no previous knowledge. And because of that, I didn't want to make it too technical. So there are 2 boxes in this book that talk about valuations. It's pretty high level. You don't have to read it, but I think it's really useful information. This talks about just general valuation of financial securities. Then the options chapter, probably the most technical chapter. You go into call options, put options, the money, hockey sticks, the Greeks, and then finally option pricing models, Black-Scholes, and binomial asset pricing model. I don't go through all the details, but I do highlight examples and how they work. Chapter 6, portfolio management. Talk about portfolio managers, how they do diversification, asset allocation, and all that stuff. Modern portfolio theory. Good stuff. Finally, I talk about the Federal Reserve. Again, that's a box at the end. You don't have to read it, but really great information. Chapter 7, entities, investors, stock exchange, brokerage houses, chop shops, etc., etc. And then the various trading desks. Chapter 8, banking functions. Now, this is totally going in a different direction. So until now, I've been talking about the stock market, different entities that are engaged in trading. But then I'm thinking, who's my target audience over here for the book? It's probably people who are interested in working in finance. I want to give a bit of the book towards that. So for chapter 8, it's banking functions. I talk about front office, middle office, and back office, and I go through the most popular roles for those areas in banking. Generally and instead of tips at the end, I talk about skills that are useful for you to have to get a job in those roles. Because I'm always thinking, you want to work in those roles. That's why you're reading this. And then fundamental versus technical analysis, a little tip at the end of that chapter. Finally, chapter 9, risk management, different structures, the different types of risk, and divisions that are in investment banks. Post-crisis risk regulation. And finally, chapter 10, the job search. So I put a little mini guide on how to search for a job in finance. Different roles, what your resume should look like, the interview process, networking, and then how to handle mentors and coaches. And then a little information about a resume guide that I have coming up. So I tried starting with okay, you have no knowledge of finance, you want to learn all this interesting stuff, and then veering into, I assume you're interested in a career in finance. Whether you're working in one area, want to move to another, one division, want to move to another. So I go through all of investment banking and how to find a job within that. Let's go through one page of the book just to see what it looks like. I don't know. Here, ETFs. Great. So for every definition, there'll be one italicized sentence that just immediately defines it. And I'm thinking like you're running into an interview. Quick, what's an ETF? You look at it, got it. All right. But then I also have usually 2 or 3 paragraphs afterwards defining, kind of going into more detail. But with this book, I make 0 assumptions of knowledge. So sometimes even really simple things will be further defined within a definition. You can see over here a bunch of bold words. That's a constant theme through the book. I put bold words everywhere. Bold word means I have not defined this yet in the book, and I don't want to make assumptions of your knowledge. Here you can see actively managed fund, index, sector, thematic ETFs, portfolios. None of those were defined yet, so I make them in bold, and I define them in italics. In this case, I just wrote, hey, I'm about to define these in 2 chapters, so sit tight. Usually, I actually give a definition like over here for thematic ETFs. So again, trying to make no assumptions over here. And finally, at the end of every definition, there's a tip, a joke, some skills, an example, whatever it is, something that's a little neat, a little extra tidbit of information for you to learn. All right, I'm really excited. This was so much work for me, over 1,000 hours of writing. I'm just so excited that it's finally coming out. Now, I'm pricing it extremely competitively, somewhere in the $10 to $15 range, although it'll even be on sale when it comes out right now, just before Christmas. Grab the book. Please write a review for me. Please write a good review for me on Amazon. I've never published anything before, so I'm so excited. And the day this book goes live, markross.com is getting a complete overhaul, and I'm throwing in limited time for free a cover letter course. So if your cover letter is looking a little drabby and you want one to absolutely pop, head over to markross.com. Check out the free cover letter course. Again, it's not live until the book drops in a week's time. So the target is somewhere between December 19th and 20th. It depends on my publisher. I'm really excited, well, for myself, but for everyone. Christmas is coming up. Buy the book for everyone, and I'll see you next time.